TYTSports, everybody. It's Turks and Jerks, our Monday morning show. It's Michael Schur, Cenk Uygur, Ben Mankewicz. So here's what I want to talk about and get your guys' reaction to this, because the temptation in the NFL, especially after week one and then again in week two, is we make declarative statements. Rodney Harrison at NBC Sports famously after week one, really maybe at halftime of the Sunday night game, was addition that the Broncos were clearly fantastic and that the Seahawks, though, weren't going to lose. Right? You're going to go 16-0, and we're going to get the Seahawks and the Broncos in the Super Bowl. So here's what happened in week one in the NFL. The Bills beat the Bears in Chicago. San Francisco pounded Dallas. The Dallas defense looked good only against the standard that they would have the worst defense of all time. Right? Tennessee pounds Kansas City at Arrowhead. Denver beats what appears to be a very good Indianapolis team Sunday night, where they control the entire first half of the game. Miami beats New England, dominating the second half of that game, while Minnesota pounded St. Louis, and we think St. Louis is obviously just terrible. That's what that told us. So we move on to week two. Those same Bears go to San Francisco after losing at home and score 3 touchdowns in the fourth quarter somehow and beat the Niners by 8 points in San Francisco. Dallas runs Tennessee out of the gym in Nashville, right? Denver, they had to knock down a pass with a minute to play from inside the 5-yard line to beat the Chiefs, who got crushed by Tennessee at Arrowhead in week one, to salvage that game and win by a touchdown again in Denver. In Miami, that team that beat New England, they got run over by Buffalo in a game that was never even competitive. What did Minnesota do? After blowing out the Rams, they were blown out by New England, who lost to Miami 30-7. The only thing we can draw from this is clearly the only really bad team, and this is the Rams, except they went into Tampa Bay and beat the Buccaneers 19-17. You draw nothing. You draw nothing except that this is a league where the overwhelming majority of the teams, I'm going to make up a number, 80% will be between 6-10 and 10-6. And a large part of those differences, especially 7-9 and 9-7, will be because balls bounce funny, because one guy made one great play, two guys made two great plays in games, and we don't know anything.
Here's what I draw from that. When the Chiefs and Buccaneers play, I have no idea what's going to happen.
Here's what I draw from that. It turns out Buffalo is the best team in the NFL. Yeah. Well, they're the one who won both times in surprising fashion.
In surprising fashion. So but there are some things that we have learned, and one of them is that the Raiders are probably pretty bad, and that Buffalo is probably pretty good. But other than that, we don't know. I don't know what the Niners are going to do. I don't have any sense of whether that's a 12-4 team or a 9-7 team. It's probably one of the numbers in between those two. Yeah, it's probably 10-6 or 11-5.
So it's a great point overall by you, Ben. You're right. It's as unpredictable as I've ever seen it. Having said that, that's why I focus on the coaches. And so great coaches will rise to the top here. So look for the Cardinals with Bruce Arians. Look for Panthers with Ron Rivera to do well. The 49ers do have a great coach, and the Seahawks have a great coach, but that's a lot of people in that division, right? And then and they're playing against the AFC West as well. That's why every week there's going to be a surprise.
Seattle and Denver next week.
That's right.
Yeah, it's just really hard to figure out what anything means. So enjoy your conversations with friends, insist on things, but you're almost certainly wrong.
I mean, exactly. The Chiefs were 9-0 to open last season. They're 2-8 since then, including a playoff game. So you have no idea what's going on. And they looked like a perfect team. Their defense was all set. They lost some free agents. So now they're a terrible team, worst team in football. They could win 4 games.
Worst team in football, they nearly beat Denver in Denver.
Exactly. Well, that's exactly. I mean, that's, this is, anything can happen on any random Sunday.
Yeah, on any.
You're so close.
Any particular Sunday.
Yeah, any old Sunday.
Yeah. You mentioned Bruce Arians, the Cardinals. They're good.
They are.
They can play defense. They can win with Drew Stanton, although anybody, it turns out, as Michael pointed out, can win with a Michigan State quarterback. Yeah. The Giants, and something's wrong with the Giants. Like being unable to win that game against Drew Stanton or really compete terribly effectively in that game at home is a sign that something's really wrong. And it's not like they're waiting for 5 significant guys to come back.
And there are also some football players that we're learning about. I think DeMarco Murray's really good, better than I ever thought he would.
I never wanted to draft, but he's clearly a beast.
He's clearly good. Geno Smith appears to have grown up a lot, even though still making mistakes. Didn't play as well in the second half, obviously, but that's because the Packers
he wasted his best throw on a timeout.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's been fun watching that. I was rooting, whenever a guy's drafted late, unless they're Matt Leinart, I sort of root for them to do pretty well, and that was great. And that, and I think Cincinnati, I mean, until they lose in the playoffs, they're probably going to do well this season.
So my final note on that, in the theme of question marks, is the guy we haven't mentioned yet, who I think is the largest question mark in the NFL, Colin Kaepernick. We don't know what that guy's about.
No, I think the 49ers are, and I said this before, a quarterback away from being a really, really good team.
I think you've said that in previous years. So, look, if Colin Kaepernick turns out to be the great guy, quarterback that we thought he was going to be a year and 2 weeks ago, then the 49ers are going to be the best team, right? If he turns into a head case, which I now think is possible, well, then the 49ers can't be a great team. And so, to me, a lot of this league, as much as we've talked about all the other teams, is the 49ers. Will the 49ers be the 49ers? If they are, I still have them ranked as I have had them ranked for 3 years in a row as the top team in the NFL.
Well, for 3 years in a row, they've gone to the NFC Championship game, too.
That's right.
Two unbelievable interceptions in that game. So 3 of those interceptions, yes, I'd say only one was really Kaepernick's
Interesting side note, the Niners tried to trade up to get Fuller. Trent Baalke couldn't get the deal done on draft.
We did earlier both a Turks of the Week segment and a Jerks of the Week segment. I picked Antonio Gates because his 34 might be our last opportunity to do so, but I wanted to pick Kyle Fuller. It was between Antonio Gates and Kyle Fuller.
Last interesting side note is I saw Kaepernick on the sideline at the end of the game, and I don't know if anybody else picked this up. He was twitching.
Yeah.
He's like,
yep.
He was doing this. I was like, what's going on? There's something going on inside of Colin Kaepernick's head that we are not privy to.
He's a weird dude. I mean, I watched that team pretty closely. I watched their, their press conferences and all their online stuff, and he's a weird dude, Colin Kaepernick. He's obviously a great athlete, but he's a weird dude.